Hello everybody, welcome to the 91st episode of the On The Line Tennis podcast. Today it's just me, Jack. I'm going to be analysing the WTA 1000 Madrid final between Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek. Aryna Sabalenka, of course, able to come out on top. I thought I'd do this one on my own today because it's going to be very analysis-y and I didn't want to bore my guests too much with just how much I'd be talking. It'll be a shorter episode. It'll just be me talking analysis for 10 minutes or so. Enjoy it. Here we go. Right, first things first, the stats. That's now been the last 21 WTA 1000 finals where the person who's won the first set is going on to win the title in the final. Sabalenka, of course, winning the second Madrid title of her career. Her second title this year, I should say, after winning the Australian Open, of course, at the start of the year. And a second final between Sabalenka and Swiatek this year after they played in Stuttgart a couple of weeks ago, and Swiatek able to come out on top there, of course. Aryna able to get a bit of revenge here in Madrid. First things first, before the match, right, I expected this would be a little closer than it would have been in Stuttgart. It was 6-3, 6-4, I believe, in Stuttgart to Swiatek. Swiatek played fantastically. I thought, though, the conditions would be advantage Sabalenka. I thought the altitude, of course, at Madrid would give it a little bit more pop in that serve, a few more free points maybe on the Sabalenka serve. But that's not how things played out. It was a drudgy day in Madrid. It was pretty slow compared to the other days. The amount of free service points Sabalenka won, so the amount of return serves that Sabalenka had, 77% in Madrid, was exactly the same as it was in Stuttgart. Completely different scorelines, yet the same amount of returns were getting put in place. So the serve wasn't making much of a difference here in Madrid. So instead, with the conditions a little slower than usual, Sabalenka knew she'd have to beat Swiatek in the extended rallies. Here's what she had to say in her press conferences. So she was asked, what does it take, in your opinion, to beat Iga on clay? Of course, they'd played 3 times previously. Sabalenka had lost all 3 times on clay in the past. So what did she have to do? She said, I think in Stuttgart I was going crazy when I had slower shots. I was trying to rush things. I was trying to go for winners. This time I'll play with more passion and I'll just wait for a better shot to finish the point. She mentioned in the press conference after the win over Iga just how patient she was. She said she stuck to the plan for the entirety of the match. She didn't overrush things. She waited for a better shot to go for powerful shots. That's the bit there. Aryna was far better at going into the Swiatek forehand by winning against Swiatek's backhand. Right? Confusing, but I will explain that in specific detail. The first thing that really, really impressed me was on serve, Sabalenka consistently went into the Swiatek backhand to earn her the right to go into the forehand on serve. She went straight into the backhand. The backhand's more reliable for Swiatek on return. She's going to get more of them into play. But Sabalenka wanted to reserve the right to go into the forehand for very specific points. Yeah, so most of the time it was into the backhand. A flatter serve in the deuce court, particularly because you're going down the tee, easier to get a bit more pace on it, so it's not like she was liable to getting attacked. But yeah, she went there from the start and it was a surprise for Iga. Iga was expecting more to the forehand, more traffic to the forehand, because in Stuttgart, in the deuce court, 52% of Sabalenka's first serves went into the Swiatek forehand wide. But in Madrid, 16% of those first serves in the deuce court went to her forehand. So there was far less traffic going to that way, and for the first few games, Swiatek was completely caught off guard. We saw Thomas Viktorovski and the rest of the team, the coaching team in Iga's camp, discussing this at the change of ends. I think it caught Iga off guard because for the whole of the first set, Sabalenka went without getting broken. And if you can go a whole set without getting broken against Swiatek, you are in very, very good nick. 16% of first serves, by the way, only equated to 5 first serves in the deuce court wide. Only 5. There was one point in particular, I remember it, in the first game of the third set for Sabalenka. She was 40 love up, it went to deuce, then she went out wide. Saved it for a very important point there. When there could have been a little turning point, she got the unreturnable, was able to go up 2 love. Very, very important point there to go wide. Anyway, that was the first thing. She caught Iga by surprise by going to the backhand more often on return and not looking for the cheap points out wide to the forehand. Interesting. What's more interesting though, in the rally, where was Sabalenka beating Swiatek in the extended rallies? How was she able to, I said earlier, she was winning against Swiatek's backhand to go into the forehand. What exactly did that look like? This is where I was talking about patience. This is where she was more patient. Yeah, according to Tennis Abstract, Iga played 51% of her ground strokes as forehands in Stuttgart. In numbers, that's 104 forehands to 99 backhands. In Madrid, she played just 38% of her ground strokes as forehands. That is far, far less. 92 forehands to 153 backhands. A huge deficit from Stuttgart. Iga lost 45% of the points in which she played forehands. Compare that to 63% in Stuttgart, 61% on clay on average. That is a huge dip, 16% dip from the amount of forehand points she normally wins. Yeah? In short, Sabalenka went into the Swiatek forehand at the perfect times. She earned herself the right to go there. A lot of this, of course, can be attributed to her newfound confidence in all of her shots. Discussed the biomechanical improvements of her serve with Gavin McMillan on the podcast, but he also mentioned the improvements to her forehand, which has a lot more weight, a lot more safety to it. She was more confident hitting big for longer in rallies. So Sabalenka basically barraged the Swiatek backhand to open up the deuce side. And there wasn't much risk about it. Sabalenka impressed repeatedly with ripped backhands cross court, and particularly forehands inside out. Now, her forehand inside out was phenomenal throughout the match. It frequently trumped the Swiatek backhand. Now, this is interesting because people have tried to attack the Swiatek backhand before, but it always comes back. Yeah, it always comes back. The defence of the Swiatek backhand is amazing, and if you give her time, she will change direction very, very consistently. Other players have faltered, then trying to pull off this tactic because they've tried to go into the forehand side too early off of a backhand that hasn't been that weak from Swiatek, and they've immediately been burned. If you go into the Swiatek forehand too early, you lose. Any player in the world will tell you that. You give Swiatek time on the forehand on clay, you will generally lose the point 8 times out of 10. The ball will nearly always come back from Iga's side in the backhand, so it was important here that Sabalenka kept barraging the Swiatek backhand until she got a big enough space in the deuce side. In Stuttgart, she was bailing out of those rallies too early. She was going into the forehand side a little too much. She didn't have the patience to keep trading on the backhand. And here, we saw it over and over and over again. A couple of key points in particular where we saw this dynamic play out, particularly in the third set, which was very nip and tuck, and Sabalenka had to win a few key points just to make the difference, right? Sabalenka's 1-love, up 30-15 down though on the Swiatek serve in the third set. Sabalenka uses that forehand inside out. Again, that's going to trump the Swiatek backhand if she can get that forehand inside out. It's a reliable, heavy shot that she can keep hitting over and over again, and then went into the forehand cross court to force the error. Again, immediately on the next point, 30-all, Sabalenka uses her backhand down the line to force another forehand error after using depth on a backhand cross to push Iga back. So it was the backhand cross from Sabalenka that got a shorter ball from Swiatek on the backhand that she was then able to change direction on. Right, and every time I'm talking about backhands from Swiatek that are marginally short. They're not that short, but marginally short. And it was because Sabalenka was hitting such a huge ball over and over again consistently that she was able to do that. Second break in the third set as well for Sabalenka. It was 4-3 for Sabalenka. Swiatek was 15-30 down on serve. Sabalenka uses another forehand inside out, followed by a ridiculous forehand down the line to set up 2 break points, the first of which she was able to convert. Again, that forehand inside out. She won, according to Tennis Abstract, 11 points out of the 13 in which there was a Sabalenka forehand inside out. That is an insane stat against Swiatek. On clay, against Swiatek, any shot that's got that sort of win percentage, that is phenomenally repeatable and reliable. I was super impressed with how Sabalenka was able to attack the backhand to then finish against the forehand. Basically, phenomenal stuff. One wobble in the tactics though. This is quite interesting. Sabalenka compared her final game of the match to the one in Australia, where Rybakina was able to save 4 championship points before Sabalenka then closed it out. This is funny because there was a nearly almost panicky, changing tactics in the final game of the match, despite the fact Sabalenka was able to come through. 2 of her 5 deuce serves wide to the forehand featured in this game. So Sabalenka tried to use the surprise tactic in the very, very last game. It did not work at all. Both of them were crunched by Swiatek. She was waiting for them. Sabalenka, I guess, just trying to look for a cheap, easy way of getting out of a point. Did not work. Again, Sabalenka went too early in the forehand on a couple of other occasions as well, mid-rally, approaching the net off of nothing on her first championship point, by the way. I'm sure you'll remember that, if you remember that sort of hesitation from Sabalenka coming forward. So she still came through the game. Instead of relying on the tactics that had won her the match, she played some special shots from positions where she had no right to hit them. So she was running on pure adrenaline, basically. Traded cross-court forehands on one of the break points at 5-3, on the break point at 5-3, sorry, and only just got one deep enough to merit going up the line. And even then, Iga missed her backhand by a couple of centimetres. So, I mean, Sabalenka was really playing with percentages and fire on that break point that she saved. Only her 5th ace of the match as well on the first deuce of that game. Incredible serving. And then the second deuce was a serve plus a backhand inside out near half volley shot that gave her the opportunity to hit a winner. I don't know if you remember that one, but it was mental. It was a lowest percentage shot she could have hit, and she pulled it off to set up a winner. Amazing stuff. So I think there was a bit of an adrenaline boost in the final game that caused her tactics to wobble, but she got away with it with just phenomenal ball striking and absolutely, deserves to win it, even if the tactics kind of wavered just for a second. So in summary, the conditions didn't have as much of an influence on this match as I expected. Aryna Sabalenka can beat Swiatek in slower clay conditions. Sabalenka caught Swiatek by surprise in the first set by targeting her backhand return. It paid dividends as she didn't get broken for the entirety of the first set. Even if the ball came back, it just stopped Swiatek being able to predict what was going to happen. Very good surprise tactic. In Stuttgart, we saw Sabalenka rushing the rallies, taking her shots to the Swiatek forehand a little too early, and Swiatek's amazing defence just able to turn around the point off that wing. Instead, Sabalenka trusted in her huge ground strokes, patiently barraged the Swiatek backhand to earn the right to then go into the forehand with real venom. Reduced Swiatek's win rate on the forehand on clay from 61% to 45% according to Tennis Abstract. That is the takeaway number there. Sabalenka's tactics wavered in the final game, but she closed the match on adrenaline, pulling off some low percentage plays with aplomb. Fantastic for the world number 1 versus the world number 2 rivalry. Sabalenka's proved she could be a threat to Swiatek anywhere. There will still be some free points earned on serve in altitude that she might not have got in a hypothetical French Open final, for example. So Swiatek, I would say, still should be considered the favourite if we do get that matchup, but it's incredibly exciting going forward. Whatever the case, if it all comes down to what happens in the rallies, both women were playing phenomenally from the back of the court, so it would be a dream French Open final. I'm hoping we get that. Fingers crossed. Thanks very much for joining me. Give us a like, give us a subscribe on YouTube. All helps the channel a lot. Thank you very much. We'll catch you next time on the Online Tennis Podcast. Cheers.